Arsenal Football Club. There's something genuinely fascinating happening with Arsenal right now, and I don't think enough people actually stop and think about how weird it is. Because Arsenal haven't won the Champions League, we haven't dominated Europe, we haven't even won the Premier League in over 20 years. And yet, if you spend more than 6 minutes on football, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube comments, or honestly any football-related social media platform, you'd think that Arsenal were this pure evil empire that's been terrorizing football for decades. People talk about Arsenal with this level of irritation that usually gets reserved for teams that win literally everything. And as an Arsenal fan, I can't even fully complain about it because some of it is objectively funny.
It's a goal!
If anything, it's a penalty on Mavropanos.
I agree with you. Oh, get rid of that. Who are you worried about that for? That happens every game.
This is what
The Arsenal discourse online has become one of my favourite things in football because nobody reacts normally to this club anymore. Nothing is ever proportional, and Arsenal could win a 2-0 game and suddenly there's a 40-minute TikTok talking about Arsenal's dark arts. Ben White could smile at full time and people start talking about his arrogance, and Declan Rice could point at the crowd after scoring and suddenly there's an entire debate about class and respect in the game. It's fucking insane, but it's also really exhausting because every single Arsenal conversation online now feels like it spirals into a cultural war where everyone's pretending that they don't care about Arsenal while very clearly caring about Arsenal more than their own club. And I think the funniest part is that Arsenal fans themselves still seem confused by this, because you'll see Arsenal supporters saying things like, why does everyone hate us so much, while posting their 17th clip of Martin Odegaard doing a literal spin and they're like creaming over it. That would probably be a good reason. Of course people are going to be annoyed, but I also think that there's a deeper reason Arsenal have become football's main character online, and honestly a lot of it comes down to timing, because for years Arsenal weren't hated, they were just mocked. There's a difference. During the late Wenger years and the early Arteta era, nobody feared Arsenal. People enjoyed Arsenal because we were content, we were entertainment, and every week there was some new disaster. Mustafi defending like he'd never met his teammates before, and David Luiz being David Luiz. And then you have the infamous Arsenal Fan TV, and they became more famous than the actual football at one point. People loved to banter Arsenal because bantering Arsenal made everyone feel comfortable. You always knew eventually Arsenal would collapse in the funniest way possible. It was like a tradition. And then Arteta actually fixed the team. Call it Harambe, call it whatever you want. He's done phenomenal with this team, because the moment Arsenal became genuinely good again, everything changed. Suddenly Arsenal fans had confidence, and unfortunately for the rest of the football world, Arsenal fans aren't that good at being confident in moderation. We don't really know how to quietly enjoy football. We skip that stage completely after the banter era, and that's when the irritation can start to build, because football fans can tolerate arrogance from teams that constantly win trophies. For instance, Real Madrid fans can be unbearable because they've earned the right to be. Manchester City fans talk with the calmness of people who know they're probably going to win another league again at some point. But Arsenal fans started talking like that way before actually winning anything major, which for rival fans is basically football terrorism. And look, I get it, I understand it. If you're a rival supporter and you open TikTok after Arsenal beat the likes of Nottingham Forest, and the first thing you see is a cinematic Bukayo Saka edit with slow dramatic music and the comments saying we are witnessing history, eventually you're going to become irritated as a human being, especially because Arsenal fans online are everywhere. I don't know what happened over the last 3 years, but Arsenal supporters have completely mastered the football social media aspect. Every game becomes content like immediately, and there are tactical threads before the players have even left the stadium, and somebody will upload a William Saliba compilation with Central C playing over it. There's so much TikTok nonsense based around this club that it just really rubs people the wrong way. I completely get it. So yeah, I get why rival fans hate this particular aspect of Arsenal, because deep down, Arsenal have become unavoidable. That's the real reason this discourse feels so intense now, and well, actually, there's that, which we will get onto. We will. Arsenal aren't just a football club anymore online, they're basically a genre of content. Every conversation somehow becomes about Arsenal. If another club loses, Arsenal get mentioned. If another club wins, Arsenal gets compared to them, and even neutral fans who supposedly don't care about Arsenal somehow end up in Arsenal debates every single day of their lives. That's probably more a problem on their side, being chronically online. I've seen it, it's not a good look. And social media algorithms absolutely adore this, because Arsenal are the perfect engagement club, with young players, an emotional fan base, dramatic manager, aesthetically pleasing football. Well, actually, no, I can't even say that with a straight face. Constant narratives, endless rivalries, it's perfect for the algorithm. Football Twitter literally survives off of Arsenal outrage right now. And then you go to the likes of TikTok, which might honestly be the most cooked form of football conversation humanity has ever invented. TikTok football fans don't even discuss football anymore, they discuss vibes, aura, cold moments. It's mind-numbing. One good performance and suddenly somebody's saying Saliba has final boss energy, whatever the fuck. That means one bad result and Arsenal have no aura, and nobody even knows what aura means anymore because we're just saying words. I fucking hate TikTok. But with all that, Arsenal still somehow become the center of it all. And the funniest example is the celebration discourse, because I still can't believe this became a real thing. Arsenal celebrate goals, standard, and people react like they've just twatted a puppy top bins or some shit. Every time the players enjoy themselves, there's this weird online outrage from people acting personally offended by happiness. You celebrated too hard. What does that even mean? We as football fans spent 10 years complaining that modern football has become corporate and emotionless, and now whenever Arsenal players show emotion, everyone suddenly turns into a disappointed mum who catches their son having a wine. And I think the real reason people get annoyed is because Arsenal look like they're enjoying themselves. That genuinely bothers rival fans more than losing sometimes. The connection with the players, the fans, Arteta screaming on the touchline like a man trying to stop a nuclear launch, it creates this energy around Arsenal that make people either completely buy into it or absolutely despise it. There's no middle ground anymore, and Arteta himself is a massive reason for that, because he's probably the most unintentionally funny manager in football, besides this guy. Everything he says sounds incredibly profound until you actually think about it for a couple of seconds and realize this guy's just chatting out of his ass. But somehow it works. That's what makes people angry. If Arteta was failing, everyone would just laugh at him and move on. But because Arsenal are actually elite now, every eccentric thing he does becomes part of this larger mythology around the club. And honestly, I think that's why Arsenal are more hated now than they ever have been. Not because they're dominant, not because they've won everything, but because they've become visible again, relevant again, slightly annoying again. Football fans can forgive failure, but what they struggle to forgive is a club becoming important again after they already decided the joke was over. But what happened over the weekend, that was something I've never seen before. I don't think I've ever seen football Twitter lose its head quite like this over a decision that was objectively correct. After Arsenal's win against West Ham, the internet genuinely reacted like VAR had just handed us the league title personally. The second that Callum Wilson's late equaliser got ruled out, my timeline turned into an absolute war zone. Rival fans were screaming that corruption was real and people were calling Arsenal cheats, and somehow we've now reached the point where Arsenal are apparently the Premier League's favourite club, which is genuinely hilarious, because if you've supported Arsenal for longer than 6 months, you know that is just not true. But honestly, after watching the replay back multiple times, I really don't understand how people are acting like this was some unbelievable robbery, because David Raya is clearly fouled. Look at this. What are we not seeing? The goal gets ruled out because Raya's left arm is being obstructed as the corner comes in, and he physically cannot move properly to challenge for the ball. And whether people like it or not, that's a foul. I think what made the reaction so funny is how quickly people decided Arsenal had somehow cheated their way to a win before actually looking at the incident properly. You had all sorts of allegations flying around on Twitter, with the league being rigged and Arsenal paying the rest, and even one bloke tweeted that the Premier League needs investigating. Investigating. One result, and we're just going to ignore these guys with all these headlines and all these allegations. I'm not getting into it. I get it. I understand why people were emotional in the moment. It's a dramatic late goal in a huge game where West Ham are fighting for relegation and Arsenal are fighting for the title, and then VAR steps in after about 4 years of checking. Of course people are going to lose their minds, but once the replay started circulating properly, the decision became pretty straightforward. Raya's arm is blocked. He can't properly compete for the ball, and goalkeepers get protection for exactly that reason. And one of the funniest parts is that loads of actual football people agreed. Gary Neville literally called it the biggest moment in VAR history, but still admitted it was the correct decision because Raya had been impeded. And even former referees backed it. I mean, okay, I understand that's probably not the best thing to go off of because the referees in the Premier League are absolute wank. But Mark Clattenburg said VAR was right to disallow the goal, and the former assistant referee Darren Can pointed out that the obstruction on Raya was the crucial detail. But football Twitter didn't want to hear any of that, because once outrage starts online, nobody wants context anymore, because people had already decided that Arsenal cheated before the analysis even happened. With donuts like Mark Goldbridge ranting about the inconsistency of VAR, which I do agree with, and how football fans never know what's going to be given anymore. Completely agree. You're right there, Mark. What you say after?
It's a disgusting way to win a title, and it's a disgusting way to relegate a team. It's absolutely disgusting. Here comes the money. Of course it's a foul on Raya. You can see the arm across him.
But the thing is, there's a massive difference between a controversial decision and an incorrect decision. This was controversial because of the stakes. It was Arsenal, it was late in the game, and it affected the title race and the relegation fight. And it happened after a ridiculously long VAR review that made the whole thing feel even more dramatic, but controversial does not automatically mean wrong. I saw a huge amount of rival fans bringing up completely unrelated Arsenal goals from earlier in the season, trying to prove some giant conspiracy. Football fans do become detectives the second their rival benefits from anything, and it's just hilarious to watch, because the lengths that people will go to try and disprove something that your club has done and try and nullify it or say that it's cheating, the lengths are crazy. But let's be honest with ourselves, the officials followed the rules as they currently exist, and I think a lot of the outrage actually comes from people hating the rules themselves more than the specific decision, and I think that's the important difference. And also people just hate Arsenal. I don't even know. This video is pointless because I genuinely don't know what this fucking hate is. I really don't. There are definitely moments in football where the laws of the game feel disconnected from common sense. We've all watched handball decisions and thought there is absolutely no way anybody intended that, but if the rule says it's handball, then the referees have to apply the rule. The same thing applies here, and I think social media made the reaction 10 times worse because outrage spreads faster than nuance. Nobody goes viral calmly explaining why a decision technically makes sense. The posts that explodes are always the dramatic ones. All you have to do is put "the game is gone" in your tweet after a massive decision has been made on a football pitch, and the likelihood of going viral is there. You're gonna go viral. Get that social media team ready, boy. But yeah, I don't know anymore. Let me know what you think. And if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like, and why not subscribe, all that fun stuff. Do you think VAR got it right? Do you think Arsenal maybe robbed West Ham in that game? Or do you think that modern football has completely broken everybody's brain? I think we're at that point.